So, so anyway, we're live. Today's episode, we're going to be talking about vampires, conspiracies, really anything, to be quite honest. I mean, it's kind of, Friday's special, but on a Thursday. I am so ready for the weekend. So anyway, we're gonna play the intro. We're gonna get to topics and discussion of comic books, and we're gonna get into the vampires, alien abductions, humanoids, any topic that is kind of interesting. So sit back, relax, and let's get to the intro, shall we? So, today was a pretty good day. I mean, we had rain. That's what I woke up to. It was like nothing but rain. And for me, it was kind of a fascinating day today. So one thing I kind of noticed when it was kind of like a messed up day, like if you hear something in the background, it is the washer, and I'm washing clothes. I'll dry them after the show's over. So I had a funny moment when I was driving over to my sister's place. I was dropping off the turkey because we're having Thanksgiving over at her house. And I had sort of like what I jokingly called the Mandela effect, where I know some people are going like, it's not a Mandela effect, but to me it's funny. I was driving and I was getting ready to take the exit off the road because I was going to drive on the back road, which exiting out of the area on the back road is easy, but driving to that highway area, the annoying part of the washer, driving to that area is, how does Michael Scott put it? It's a bitch. It's an absolute bitch. And hold on, I'm gonna close my door so I don't have to hear this stupid ass washer real quick. I'll be right back. So, and anyway, the road I drive on to get to the area is curvy. It's like a back curvy road. It's like a roller coaster ride, and to me, it's always annoying. So. It's a slow Thursday. I'm gonna get to reading the comic news real quick, and I'll. That's some old news right there. So, Warsha starts up again. Ah, boy. So, Legion and Fargo creator Noah Hawley will write and direct the next Star Wars film. I'm kind of disappointed about hearing that because I was hoping that they would do the Quentin Tarantino Hello. Had to clean Lola's mess up. That's okay, love. I just started. I had to clean up Lola's mess. And my HP computer is kind of messing up. I kind of hate it when my computer has like update. So, for those who kind of listen, I went out to my sister's place to drop off Thanksgiving stuff, turkey, potatoes, and all that. It was kind of a crazy, like, I had this like Mandela effect moment. And there's this gas station, like this old gas station. It has the sign that has the prices for like gas. So it kept flicking from $2.25 to $2.19. So at that moment, I would think like, oh shit, am I witnessing a Mandela effect? And it was basically electrical problems, I think it was. Because the same thing happens like in Eureka when the gas price and all that. So, but I found out something pretty damn funny while I was out at my sister's place. Somehow through talking about the turkey, showing her the turkey cooker thing, electric cooker, whatever it is. Thanksgiving's weird. So, I mean, it's great, but it's like, at the same time, it's like, it's kind of a headache. So, somehow from that, we talked about funerals. Somehow, we talked about funerals of how we're all going to be buried. And she mentions my brother-in-law wants to be buried the Viking way. The Viking funeral way. And I'm like, and I end up laughing hysterically because the Viking funeral way is a Viking has all his possessions with him, including his wife, and they fire a fire arrow that hits the coffin and on the boat and lights it on fire, and they go out to the river as the body and everything burns. And I thought, like, shit, that is so epic. like that is epic way. That is an epic way to go out, in my opinion. Like, if you're going out that way. But I was like, shit, that is epic. So, but it was like, at first hearing it, I was just like, is this a joke, or is this legit? Is this real? It is real. It's really the way he wants to go out. Which I was just like, man, that is epic. So, if I ever someday die, I want to be cremated. I want to be cremated. I want my ashes scattered in the ink that prints money, so I'll be everywhere. Not really. That's not how I want to go. I just want to be cremated, and I want my ashes to be I want my ashes to be taken to a beach, put into a symbol of a bat, and have the ocean wash me out to sea. That's how I want to go out. That's how I want to go out. I don't want no one crying at my funeral. I don't want no one crying. I just want people to celebrate. Just go out, celebrate. That's how I want to go out. I don't want no crying. I don't... Because it's like, if you think about it, it's like... It is sad. But at the same time, I want people to celebrate. I don't know what they are going to celebrate, but celebrate. Yeah. But it was funny, though. I was like laughing hysterically because... my sister was like... And he wants me in the coffin with him. As they get, lit on fire. And she's like, what if I outlive him? I'm just like, I don't know. But it was funny, though, to hear it, because I was like laughing hysterically. So, anyway, one thing that is kind of sad about the story I'm going to read next is Swamp Thing's executive producer teased about unrealized ideas for the second season. Which kind of saddens me, because when you hear about the stuff that they were talking about, like for example, he cut up and he confessed that he was a fan of Alan Moore, and he was happy. He used Alan Moore's 1980s run on Swamp Thing as heavy influence. Let's see. Let's get to the parts where what they were going to do. He added that the tales of Swamp Thing would have got weirder and more twisted, diving deeper into the murkiness of the swamp and the horror genre. Saying that Swamp Thing is very much the kitchen sink of the supernatural and terror. As you know, you can go deep. You could go into different subgenres of horror. And with that, I was really looking forward to exploring that in Season 2. Getting into some of the more twisted horror tales from the later comics. It would just be it just would have gotten weirder for people who don't know the character. Season 1 was telling people what Swamp Thing was all about, and Season 2 was going to be more about getting into the deeper, twisted, weirder, gross ideas. Swamp Thing was canceled mysteriously right after it premiered on late last May from cost-cutting Warner Media, and often cited as the reasons. They never got it on record why they canceled the show. He like his compatriots. While working for DC Universe shows, they were blindsided by the cancellation, stating to Joe Blow, they gotta change their name, by the way, over the Sunday, saying it was a gut punch. It was just a gut punch. It kind of sucks that they canceled it, because, like, them talking about going into the weirder, twisted tales of Swamp Thing, I was just really excited for it. He was asked about the possibilities, like Alec Holland could even come back to the big screen for another adventure. Dubman, I think that's his name. My washer's loud. Didn't say much about it to the interviewers. He said, because I don't know, about the opportunity arose about bringing Swamp Thing to the big screen. For me, as much as I would love to see a Swamp Thing on the big screen, I rather see it on television. Because Swamp Thing is a character that's more made for television than he is for film. It's kind of like that with Daredevil. Like, I like the Daredevil movie, the director's cut, but Daredevil was more better on TV, a streaming service like Netflix, where they can go deeper into not just Daredevil, but the characters around him, but also in the environment of Hell's Kitchen. Oh, thank you, love. But with not just a television, but with a movie adaptation of Swamp Thing, I feel like they would do a lot. I mean, plus they would have a bigger budget going into things. But for me, I'd rather see it back on television. I'd rather see it on HBO Max. Like, that was like the one thing I was hoping for, was them announcing Swamp Thing on HBO Max. But they didn't. Instead, we got like 3 different shows that are going to be run by Greg Berlanti. See, I know a lot of people love Greg Berlanti, and I talked about it before. But the thing about Swamp Thing that made it so damn interesting to me was that it was by newer people. It was by the people who did The Conjuring 1 through 2. Now they're doing a third one. The Annabelle films, The Nun, and stuff. Like, that for me was exciting, because it's just like, shit, that's going to be so awesome. Like, these guys are going to be doing Swamp Thing. And for me, I was hoping, like, with Swamp Thing, it'd open the door for, like, Deadman, Zatanna, Dr. Fate, Constantine, a newer version of Constantine. Nothing against the guy who plays Constantine on Legends of Tomorrow, but I just feel like them moving him from Constantine's show to Legends of Tomorrow kind of tainted the mysteriousness of Constantine and the supernatural element of Constantine. So, for me, I was hoping, like, with Swamp Thing and DC Universe, they would, expand DC Universe Dark, I guess it would be. but they didn't. So for me, it was just, I really wanted to see, a supernatural side of DC, and I would have loved to see like them, do their seasons and do Justice League Dark, and somehow Batman shows up to the mix and stuff, but they didn't. So it's kind of a disappointment because, I mean, with Swamp Thing gone, there's like only like technically 2 shows that are going that's trying to hold up the DC Universe umbrella, which is Titans and Doom Patrol. I would say Young Justice, but we ain't going to see Young Justice until, like, I guess the end of 2020 or the beginning of 2021, because they take fucking forever to do a show. Like, I know there's some people who are going to be like, well, they just came back from cancellation from Cartoon Network on DC Universe. It's just like, yeah, but they took forever, it felt like, for them to complete 1 season, because they split it in 2, and each episode was sort of like, to me, short. Like, they were very short episodes, but at the same time, they were all over the place. Like, you didn't know where they were going. Like, and they didn't even, like, finish up some storylines on one part, like, So, anyway. Now, we're going to get into the supernatural side of things. So, my internet's running kind of slow. It's been a rainy day. Let's see. I want to read this one story real quick. I know we're going to talk about vampires and stuff, but I also said we're going to be talking about the supernatural things. This is a submitted article to some websites called phantomandmonsters.com, which is a interesting website. I think I remember I was a teenager. I was like, I love this one show called In Search Of. It's not the new one with Zachary Quinto. It wasn't the Leonard Nimoy one. It was kind of like the short-lived sci-fi one. It was before sci-fi became sci-fi, which is a joke Sheldon said in The Big Bang Theory, which he was right. Once they changed the name, they kind of became more, I don't know what the hell they became. I mean, they had like WWE on there. They had like ECW Revival, which kind of sucked. And they had NXT. It was before NXT became the NXT that everybody knows. Then they had SmackDown. And SmackDown was not fun. I remember on ECW had, sorry, that was my Batman water bottle. On ECW, I'm going to get to the story. I just got to tell the story about SmackDown, ECW being on Sci-Fi. When they premiered on Sci-Fi, I remember watching it. How dumb it was. They had they had Sandman on there, of course, but Sandman got fired because he got drunk. So on Sci-Fi and ECW, they had this dude called Zombie. They had a guy dressed as Zombie because they wanted to. Sci-Fi wanted them to have supernatural performers because they can't get The Undertaker on there. So they had Kevin Thorne, who was like a vampire. He was alright. I mean, he wasn't cool like Gangrel and cool, but they had Zombie on there. And throughout this entire show, I am not making this up. I am going to do the actual voice that this zombie, ECW zombie, sounded like. That's what he sounded like. Throughout the entire fucking promo. That's how he sounded. Dude, this zombie voice. Like, it was just so bad. Then afterwards, like, I don't know if anybody remembered the movie Nacho Libre. They had a dude dressed as Nacho Libre wrestling. And I'm still trying to find those matches because I couldn't believe it. It wasn't even Jack Black dressed as Nacho Libre. I forget who they had dressed as Nacho Libre. I think it was his stuntman or something. I don't know. Anyway, it was kind of dumb, in my opinion. So, anyway, that's what I wanted to talk about. So, I remember reading this website, and I remember I was like a big fan of In Search Of, because they would have reruns. They had reruns of that show on there, and they had like different type of stories, like cults, witchcraft, ghosts, monsters, Bigfoots. Shit, I know. Hold on, one question on here. Yeah, it was dumb. It was dumb. It was really like dumb. So anyway, I got this question on Twitter. Did you watch Mountain Monsters last night on Travel Channel? I did. I didn't review it. Like I didn't get to like review it. Like I know originally I was supposed to like write tweets about it, my thoughts of it. Hopefully I could squeezed in this review. So in this episode of Mountain Monsters on Travel Channel, Jeff, Buck, Huckleberry, Bill, and Buck In Search Of, it's really good. Like they did a new version of it on History with I think it was on History with Zachary Quinto hosting it. It's not a bad show. Like it's not a bad show. Like I like the 2002 version because they would talk about different topics, and the new version they do is just like one topic on each episode. So, Mountain Monsters. The gang goes looking for... I don't even know what the hell they were looking for, to be quite honest with you. Like the problem with Mountain Monsters on Travel Channel is they don't go after anything. Like, isn't that like the old show back in the day where they would go investigate something, question witnesses, and go look for something? Instead, it's just like them looking for the three people in cloaks now with torches. And the doors. Like I had a fucking door pop up in a cornfield. I don't know where that came from. And they had Jeff captured by one of the cloak figures. They look like... hold on. They look like the Dementors. Remember the Dementors in Harry Potter and the Prisoner of Azkaban? That's what they look like. That's what they look like. They look like... Not only that, but they look like the cloak figures from Lord of the Rings on the horses and stuff. That's what they look like. That is what they honestly look like. They look like the love child between the cloak figures in Lord of the Rings and Dementors of Harry Potter carrying torches. So, it was like, this episode gave me a headache. I remember just sitting there going like, this is the dumbest shit I've ever seen. I can't even believe I watched AEW, then all of a sudden I turned it on this. I didn't get to watch South Park because I just was like, I'm going to record South Park. So, in last week's episode, South Park was like really good. So Jeff gets captured by the cloaked figures. So in this episode, all you hear is Jeff going, ha, 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 ha. And it's like, he had a better laugh than Jared Leto's Joker. Because, and afterwards, Jeff runs from Buck and Huckleberry. And he can't move that quick, I'd be honest with you. He was like moving slow. Like, he was on a snail pace run. And all of a sudden, they go into the red shack, I think of what it is. It's like this broken down shack. And it's like the same thing that Buck sat through and was just like looking at the wall. Because the little Indian girl. So I was just like, this is so dumb. And it's the shack where the Cherokee Devil put Buck in because, because he kept seeing the little Indian girl. And I was just sitting there going like, this is such a dumb episode. And all of a sudden, they see Jeff, and they're talking to him. All of a sudden, Jeff spits up blood. It's fake blood, by the way. Because I would say this, like, if he had internal bleeding, he'd be on the ground convulsing. Screaming in pain. So, Jeff goes, there's something underneath this, the floor. I don't even know how they built the floor of the shack. I don't know. So he goes underneath, they go underneath the floor, they find a giant torch, and they find these little wooden pieces, and it's like the door to the Cherokee Devil. And that's how the episode, they run from the Cherokee Devil carrying the torch, and bam! The dude with the skull mask shows up, leaves something, a gift in a box, a gift in a box, and a card. And they open the box, and it's like, oh, holy shit! And the camera cuts to black, and that's how the episode ends. So I am tired of watching this show. Because it's stupid. It is getting stupid. So, I don't even know why they have guns to begin with. I think next Thursday's Thanksgiving, so I won't be doing an episode. I think, the following Thursday, 2 weeks from Thursday, I will do a live show watching Mountain Monsters, and we will all be tortured together. So, hopefully they have one, 2 weeks from Thursday we'll do it. So, anyway, let's talk about one Bigfoot story. The article, She Will Never Forget the Face of Bigfoot. I am waiting for that episode of Mountain Monsters. The person who runs the website, I recently followed the following accounts. The person who wrote, from South Florida, and my mom and her brother and her two uncles swear by this story. One of her uncles doesn't even like talking about it. So here it is. How is it this way? The uncle doesn't even like talking about it, but they're going to talk about the article. So, anyway, the woman, I guess it's a woman or a man, I forget. A woman or a man, I don't know who wrote it, but my mom was a freshman in high school, living in Jupiter Farms, Florida. Jupiter, Florida, by the way, is where they do spring training for baseball, for those who don't know. For the Cardinals. My grandma had to work that day and asked her two brothers to come watch my mom and her uncle. My uncle was 4 years younger and had Down syndrome, so the extra help was needed. Aww. For dinner, my mom's uncles were grilling on the porch when they heard horrible noises from horrible noises in the distance. They were never able to describe the noises, other than saying it was not human and not animal. Then what the hell is it? My mom had 2 dogs who immediately took off barking and running in the direction and the sound. A few seconds later, running back to my mom's house in fear. My mom said that everyone looked in the direction the dogs just had come from and saw a massive being coming from the woods. They said it was about 7 feet tall, with wide as a door's frame. Immediately went inside and locked the doors and grabbed the guns, turned the lights off, and sat together in the living room. Yeah, the thing about the stories of these things is, I do believe that there is a lot of bizarre things out there. I mean, for example, I will point this out. I know there's some people who are going to be skeptics. But if you think about it, we haven't been discovering new things in a while out there in the world. I mean, the reason why a lot of people are so fascinated by going into space and trying to find something out there. And there's nothing wrong with that. It's really cool to see pictures from, they show from Mars. Still waiting for them to find the Martian Manhunter. But there are things on Earth that we have never really went into searching for. We haven't been researching and looking for things out there in the world. And for me, I always believe that there's something out there that we just have to look for. So we're going to continue with this story. My uncle, who has Down syndrome, is visibly shaken and upset. My mom went to get a board game from her room to help calm him down. While she was in her room, she decided to peek out the window to see if the creature was out. To see if the creature was still out there. She said that when she opened the window, the creature was just standing directly in front of the window, staring in. My mom screamed bloody murder, and my uncles came running into the room and were frozen, shocked in fear, and yanked my mom. When one of them yanked my mom by the arm, and they slammed the door behind them. Huddled in the living room, my grandma came home a few hours later to them all crouching together in the living room. It's been over 20 years since this happened. My mom and her uncle swear by this story. My mom says to this day she will never forget the face of Bigfoot. And was really upset when people tell her she's lying. She says she knows it's crazy and she didn't believe it either, but she saw it, and there's no denying that. One time my dad was dropping my mom off at home after a date. They were talking outside her house. A row of trees began shaking violently, as if someone was tearing them down. My mom ran inside immediately. My dad took off in his car. So, I will say this. I do believe this story. I will believe it. I mean, there's been a lot of weird sightings happening in Florida, not the people in Florida, but, you know, there's been a lot of weird sightings lately. Everywhere. I mean, if you kind of think about it, there's been a lot of crazy things happening in this world. You know. One thing that's interesting that I remember there's this documentary series called The Watchers that L.A. Marzulli produces and creates all this stuff, and he is a very intelligent person, and he's one of those people that I know a lot of people like. I would love to see him on the Joe Rogan podcast, or talk about. I don't even know if Joe Rogan's into the Bigfoot stuff anymore. I don't know if he's just sort of like quit. But L.A. Marzulli, he is a person who looks into cryptozoic, supernatural stuff. And he goes to, oddly enough, he speaks at churches and stuff, and I always wanted to see him speak at a church, because I always go like, if he's ever there, I'm gonna go and just hear the lecture and stuff, because I always find this stuff kind of interesting, because he will like talk about the Bigfoot and other stuff and connect it to the Bible. Because the Bible, for those who are like outsiders to the Bible, it's stories that they will, some people like this supernatural stuff. And it's kind of weird though, because like hearing people who go to church be like, I don't believe in the supernatural, but yet the Bible has supernatural stories, supernatural elements and stories, angels, demons, giants, dragons, the Nephilim, the Nephilim is angels who fell in love with women on earth, and they have sex, and they created a baby, and the baby became giants. It's weird as that sounds to some people, but so there. So Marzulli stated that he believes the theory that Bigfoots are the Nephilim, giants. I mean, there's been a lot of belief that giants still do exist, which I'm one of those people who do believe in that. And there's been a lot of stories of giants, and recently, there's this one story. Marzulli did an interview with 2 army soldiers who stated the army killed a giant in Iraq. I don't know if it's true, but it was like a really fascinating story. So, anyway, so here's more stories to it. So I was sitting in my car after work, and I always had to have a cigarette in the car before driving home. Kind of sounds like my dad. I just have to crack that joke. So I usually crack open the window all the way, but I was in the middle of November in the UK. Oh, this is in the United Kingdom. Jolly old England. I only cracked the window open ever so slightly. I wasn't paying much attention when this kid who looked about 14, 15 came up to my window, knocked on it, and asked me if he could get a lift. Oh, this is about the Black Eyed Children incident. Oh shit. This one always freaks me the fuck out. It's kind of funny though, because like me and him are right. This is, oh my god, this is a funny story. I was in the store today. I had to like grab stuff real quick at the store before I went to my sister's to drop off the turkey and the sweet potatoes and bread and whatever stuff. And we were in the store, and I was like walking with the cart because I was like, I'm ready to check out. I'm ready to get out of the store because today they were like stocking a lot of things, and you know, I just wanted to get out of the way of people who are stocking stuff because they're preparing for not only for people to pick up Thanksgiving stuff, but also next Friday, Black Friday. And for me, I'm just like, oh, I hate Black Friday. Like, I've been to Black Friday once. I did Black Friday shopping. I'll get to the story, by the way, folks. So, I one time I did the Black Friday shopping, and I got hit by a cart. Twice. And I had a cart, and I really didn't have much stuff in it. I just had, like, I had a couple items for, like, my niece. My nieces, this was back when they were teenagers. Now they're adults, surprisingly. And I had, like, Vampire Diaries. No, I'm fine. This was like years ago. I had Vampire Diaries, and what was the other show? It was one of those shows that people, Gossip Girl, I think it was. I forget. So, yeah, I think it was Gossip Girl and Vampire Diaries. It was like 2 CW shows I never watched. I never really had much interest in seeing them. Anytime I saw like Vampire Diaries, I'm thinking like, isn't that Twilight? So I remember I got hit by a cart, and it's like people don't pay attention when they're pushing carts, when they're like shopping. They're like in this huge space of like, we gotta get this item, Now it's like they have them like in lines where, yeah. So anyway, I remember it started getting crowded after. Yeah, they are different. So the store was getting crowded, so I went into the area where they have computers, laptops and stuff. So I just grabbed the stuff out of the cart and I just started booking it. I just decided, like, this is like The Walking Dead. It was back when The Walking Dead was in its prime infancy and becoming a hit and stuff. So I grabbed the stuff out of the cart. I started just booking it through areas. I cut through the baby infant areas to infant clothes areas to the men's clothing area. I was like moving it. I was just like, fuck this shit. I'm out of here. And as I was walking, I seen like a Batman hoodie. I'm like, I'm grabbing that for myself. I'm getting the fuck out of this store. I am done. And so I was just like, it was funny though, the Walmart worker was like standing there like waiting for everybody. She's like, you ready to go? I'm like, I'm ready to get out of here. She was like laughing. She's like, you're ready to get out of this store? I'm like, this is like The Walking Dead. I'm done. I'm like, so it was funny though. Like, I was just like, I'm done with the store. And I was just like, and that was when I discovered Dollar General selling like Amazon gift cards. I'm like, I'm buying shit on Amazon. Like one time I did it. I was just like, it was like the following Christmas. I was just like, we're buying stuff on Amazon. We're having it delivered. And that's how it happened. I was just like, I have nothing against people going to stores. Like, I always feel like you have to support the stores, support the small town businesses and all that. But it is smart to shop online. You know, stuff like Wish, SD, Amazon, eBay, you know. So anyway, back to the black eye kids. He asked me if I could give him a lift to the train station. Now the train station is only a 10-minute walk, so I said, "I'm really sorry, mate." It's definitely British. I can't, as I got to go home. I got to get home. I know, right? But he told me where he needs to go, and this time the kid got more forceful by said, "You need to let me in. I don't know where I'm going." I never saw the kid's face. He had his hoodie up. Here's the thing. This reminds me of the story. I gotta tell this story. I gotta tell this joke and stuff, and I gotta get out of my system. If I saw a kid in a hoodie knocking on the door or window, I'd just be like, "Fuck off." But this reminds me of the story. I don't know if anybody's heard this story. I don't know if it's like all over the world or anything. But you know that story of the two parents who had the dwarf daughter. That was like that one movie. What was it? Remember? I don't know if anybody's remember the story. Remember the story where the parents had the Ukraine daughter abandoned by the Indiana parents and stuff. Like, I wanted to talk about the story after after she appeared on Dr. Phil the 7th of November. Like, I wanted to talk about it because how fucked up it is. It was like the most bizarre story ever, in my opinion. It was the remember the Michael Barrett and his wife Christine, who had the daughter who's 8 years old, and alleged that the daughter was like a sociopath because she wanted to kill them. It was like out of that one movie, The Orphan. Remember that story? Like, that story freaked me the fuck out. How that kid, how the story was. Like, I was just like, if this story's real, then it is like the most fascinating story ever. And they said like the daughter's a sociopath and a con artist who is really an adult woman and stuff. Like, I saw the story and I was just like, if me and my significant other decided to adopt, and we adopted a daughter, and she has like this evil smile trying to like trying to kill us, I will kick her like a football in a field goal. I would just kick her out of the fucking house. I would field goal her across 2 houses over. I would just be like, get the fuck out, and just because that story, Orphan, it is the most terrifying movie I have ever seen. It was terrifying. It was like, it was like the most scariest thing I have ever seen. For those who don't know, I have the TV on, and they're doing like some weird musical. Six Flags. I played like I've been playing Savage Mister, who I think it's like his old Fright Fest videos. I never got around to seeing them because I've been kind of busy. They're really fun. So The Orphan stars the actress from Bates Motel and The Conjuring. CCH Pounder is also in it as Sister Abigail. If you ever hear her voice, CCH Pounder, she does the voice of Amanda Waller in Justice League. So, the movie is produced by Leonardo DiCaprio. So anyway, this story kind of freaked me out when I heard the woman who was like abandoned by. So anyway, back to the story. I didn't know certain if he was a black eyed kid, but I remember feeling the sense of terror. Basically, I just took off. I looked back in my rearview mirror. The kid was just standing there, staring at the car as I drove away. I'm honestly shaken right now. That's his words. Yeah, I mean, I gotta talk about the story. The Indiana Ukraine kid. Everything's happening in the Ukraine. I gotta read the story. Here it is. I want to give my 2 cents on it. Like I really want to talk about this Ukraine accused by Indiana parents for a Ukraine adoptee accused by parents for being a 33-year-old woman speaks out. Ukraine female adopted by Indiana couple who was later abandoned after they claimed that she lied about her age and was actually 22 or even 33-year-old woman, says bizarre allegations against her aren't true. Natalie Barnett, an orphan with dwarfism, opened up about the accusations in an interview with Dr. Phil. Why does Dr. Phil always get the crazies? Thursday, her story drew attention nationwide in September when her adoptive parents, Christine Barnett, who's 45, and 43-year-old Michael Barnett, were each charged with 2 counts of neglect of a dependent stemming from their move to Canada in 2013. Time out. This happened in 2013. It's now 2019. 6 years later, you arrest these people. Here's the thing. None of this makes any sense in the story. Okay, like, none of this makes sense. Like, why are you charging these people 6 years later of abandonment? I mean, they moved to Canada. That's enough of torture for them. Sorry, Canada. Nothing against you all. You have a crazy prime minister. So, I know some people in Canada are probably going to be angry about it, but I'm sorry. You guys are very sensitive. I mean, you have a prime minister that says, instead of mankind, it's peoplekind. Mankind is short for humankind. I know I mansplained right there, but none of this makes any sense. Like they're according to investigators, the Barnetts are now divorced. Adopted Natalie in 2010. Doctors determined she was estimated to be around 8 years old. Natalie told the Sheriff's Department in 2014 that she came to the U.S. through adoption in 2008 from her native Ukraine, and that the Barnetts adopted her 2 years later. So she was on her own. On her own. And I seen the video. I watched the Dr. Phil story and stuff. She does not look the age that she says she is. She looks fucking old. I mean, she looks old. She lived with the Barnetts for about 2 years in Hamilton County. A skeleton survey was taken at the hospital in 2012, estimated Natalie's age to be 11, according to the TV. But the same year, Barnett's changed her age legally to 22, and soon after moved to Canada. Was Canada really that important? Was Canada really that important to move to? Like, you had to change somebody's age? I'm just saying. Through the couples reportedly rented Natalie a apartment in Lafayette, Indiana. She knew no one in the city and was left with no means of financial support. She was eventually evicted in 2014, at which some point was reportedly taken in by neighbors. Natalie said she had not seen the Barnetts since they left the country. So apparently this kid scared these people so fucking badly they moved to Canada. So the pair made a slew of accusations against the Ukraine. Just like what the Democrats are doing today. Accusing them of election interference. So I guess why not just throw in a kid? Merely posing as a little girl, Christine told the news station in September that Natalie was diagnosed as a psychopath and sociopath, and claimed that her adoption was a scam. So, sorry, I got like a runny nose. So, these people are kind of crazy. The Barnetts told Good Morning America, God, why didn't he tell those people, that they believe Natalie could be old as 33. In an interview with Dr. Phil, the host, Dr. Phil himself, asked, "Are you 33? 33-year-old scam artist. She painted you as an evil dwarf." This is Dr. Phil's. He just gets to the point. She painted you as an evil dwarf that was going to poison their coffee and stab them in their sleep. They say you scammed them and lied about your age to terrorize them. And says, to which Natalie replies in tears, "It is not true at all." I gotta read this one again. I love how he says it, Dr. Phil. She painted you as an evil dwarf. I'm surprised Dr. Phil did not just go out and say it as this way. And I know some people are going to get pissed about what I'm going to say. I'm surprised he didn't say it like this. She painted you as an evil midget. It was going to poison their coffee and stab them in their sleep. They say you scammed them and lied about your age, terrorized them. When did this? He's like painting her like as this evil genius. Like she saw these two saps and were like, I'm gonna lie about my age. I'm gonna terrorize them. I'm gonna piss in their coffee is what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna piss in their coffee. So anyway, let's see. Why do they want to get rid of you so badly? A 6 or 7-year-old child living in an apartment alone for a year. They're just not believable to me, he says. I guess it comes down to whether or not you're an evil sociopath demon child that comes over here to murder everybody. I sometimes wonder what Dr. Phil is thinking when he says something. Like, did that giant mustache of his just go to his brain? And just was like, I'm gonna throw these questions at these people just to know what happens. So anyway, the Ukraine female and immigrant age, she just wanted people to hear my side. Let's see. I think honestly, I honestly believe the kid. I mean, yeah, she looks old as hell, but these two saps, I mean, they kind of got what they deserve. I mean, who the fuck wants to go to Canada? I mean, I have nothing against Canada, to be quite honest with you. But what it was really that they just wanted to go to Canada to support their highly intelligent son, and they just viewed this poor little kid who is a dwarf, or a little person. I guess I'm going to say little person because I don't want to say dwarf, because someone is going to get their panties in a bunch by saying how insulting I am for that. But I honestly side with the little kid. The parents are just a bunch of fucking idiots. Paranoid. I mean, I see the mugshot. The mom looked like a drug user, to be quite honest with you. So I honestly side with the kid. I mean, yeah, she looks old. That's part of life, unfortunately. But, damn. The parents are a bunch of dipshits, to be quite honest with you. So, I know there's going to be some people like, have her take a lie detector test, or they did a bone density test on this kid. She is the age that she says she is. And I don't even believe that this kid would honestly try to kill them. I mean, they did a bone density test, so I believe the medical records that she is the age that she says she is. So that's how it is. So I'm going to get to the big story that I wanted to get to, and where is the older posts? There we go. Alright, I'm going to take a quick break. I'm going to blow my nose because I got my nose is like runny and shit, so I'm gonna blow my nose real quick. I will be right back after this quick break, real quick. So I'm gonna play a song. It's just gonna be real quick. I gotta blow my nose. I hate allergies. It rained. It rained, and it is a pain in the ass when weather changes and all that. I'm gonna play this song. I don't know if I played this one, but I like this song.
When I got to Memphis to put my old baby down, despair was all around me. Confusion is what I found. So I called me the sheriff. I said, bring my wife the gun. But please, don't let her hurt me now. That girl is just having fun. He said, I can't take you to heaven. I can't save your soul. I can't promise forever. Hey, yeah, save my soul. Hey now, whoa, save my soul. Yeah, my heart in your hand. I can feel my soul. Well, I found me a doctor to give me what I need. Paranoia had surrounded me. Smoking
So,
cigarettes, what I
we're back. That was quick. I told you. Let's say I'm slow. So, a possible vampire encounter in a Seattle bar.
save your soul. I can't promise forever.
Save my soul. I like the song, by the way. It's Blues Saraceno. Save my soul. In your hands, feel my soul. Anyway. Over the holiday period, 3 days before New Year's 2010, this is a woman who sent the story in. My girlfriends and I decided to explore the Seattle nightlife. I have lived in Seattle for the last 4.5 years. You don't have to go into detail, lady. But I not really investigated city nightlife as much as... Much to my girlfriend's annoyance, my girlfriends are fully aware of the fact that I went to a pub crawl. After hours, trudging through the cold night, visiting many bars, I've discovered a bar of Belltown, which is located down an alleyway. I did not know the name of the bar. You shouldn't have gone there. You should have never gone there. But it was dark, and I wasn't attentive at this point. Then why did you go there? Here's the thing. Now, I don't drink. For those who don't know, I don't drink because I take medication. anxiety and depression meds, so I can't drink, which is a good thing. Because I don't like alcohol to begin with. I feel like alcohol blurs your judgment and decision making. It makes you kind of not in all your senses. But this was the final destination, and I was relieved. I was a designated driver, and I stopped drinking several hours earlier. So I wasn't feeling very Europia, which I shared with my girlfriends. In fact, I was miserable. She put a she pointed that out like miserable with exclamation point. I remember the entryway to the bar was two stone steps. I stubbed my toe on one of them. I ascended the stairs, which is why I remember. The interior was dark. It was small. It was packed full of punters. And very sticky floors. How do you know the floors were sticky? We managed to push our way to the bar, and I ordered some drinks. This person should write a novel. We stood near the bar. The place was heavy. My girlfriends already had consumed their first lot of refreshments, and they were drinking like a fish. This person clearly read Twilight. I actually found out, by the way, this is a fun fact, because I know my significant other and producer of the show would love this one. They made a Twilight comic book. Somebody made a Twilight comic book. A comic book series of Twilight. I did not know that. The Twilight graphic novels. They did the Twilight Volume 1, Twilight Volume 2, New Moon graphic novel Volume 1, New Moon graphic novel Volume 2. Yeah, they did like 4 comics. They did like the first 2 and the New Moon one. And it's very... The artwork is very, very anime. I take it like it's like, brand new. Because the second volume, New Moon Volume 2, will be out in 2012, not 2011. The first one came out like that, 2011. I think that's when it came out. Yeah, the first volume, Volume 2, came out in 2011, October. Yeah, so they did like a anime graphic novel of Twilight. I didn't even know that. Know what to get someone for Christmas. See, we stood near the bar and they were drinking like fish. It was the best place for us to stand. I pushed my way to the bar for the second time to get the girls more drinks. While I stood at the bar, I was flanked on the right of the right by a group of men who were loud and crass. On my left was a man probably 6 foot tall or so, with dark short hair, and was wearing a gray t-shirt. I didn't pay much attention to anyone, as my focus was on the attractive bartender, so I could order drinks. The man on my left spoke to me, but I didn't decipher what I heard. I turned to look at his face. He just stood with quite piercing. I noticed he had really dark eyes, but then he was backlit with so part of his face and was cast a shadow. He then touched my shoulder and said something. at first. I couldn't interpret what he was trying to say. There was too much noise. The music was blaring. The punters were talking and laughing. It was just a sound of roar. Until he touched my shoulder and the noise drifted away. Similar to when I insert earplugs to reduce the noise. Oh. So, I honestly, I have to admit the artwork looks pretty cool in this comic. Oh, it's in black and white. Wow. I have to admit the artwork in the comics look. I'm sorry, I'm like bouncing back and forth. I'm reading the vampire story and I'm looking at the Twilight comic. It's the one where Bella and Edward are working on a science project together. The artwork is very, very anime. In my opinion, very anime and detailed, in my opinion. And I think the black and white artwork really works great with the comic. Usually anytime I read like a black and white comic book, it's always independent. It's like very bad. This one looks pretty good. It's very clean looking. It's not like, it's not like when I read Strangers in Paradise. It wasn't very clean drawing. I know some people are like, it's clean, it's perfect, but it's very rough looking drawing, so. At first I couldn't comprehend what happened. I think I was dazed for a minute. Sorry, I'm reading the story again. A minute or so. And then he started speaking. He started speaking again. I could hear him. He asked for my name. I provided my real name without thinking. He asked where my friends were. The chit-chat carried on for a couple minutes. And I'm hearing police sirens in the background. Again. I live in Gotham, by the way. And then he told me he was a vampire. I scoffed at the statement. Then he showed me his teeth. His teeth were nice, actually. Bright and shiny. He had a slight... It was slight like a canine's teeth. I didn't believe him. I thought the teeth were glued. I thought my girlfriends must have bribed him to poke fun at my skeptic nature. I asked if he likes to roleplay as a vampire because it's quite he was very serious in the questioning. He was admitted he was a vampire. He got frustrated, so I asked him to prove it. He said he could bite me to prove it, but I rejected that idea. I am not naive to think that blood disorders could be passed on through a bite. He mentioned he knew where I'm from and thought it was easy since I have a British accent. Where I work and roughly where I live now. I was astounded by he clearly stated I was from northern England, north coast, near Blackpool. But actually I was from Princeton, Lancashire, about 15 minutes from Blackpool. He stated I was working for a company about 40 minutes south of Seattle. He mentioned that I was married, and the married part was obvious. I had my wedding ring on. So basically, this woman meets a vampire in a bar. So, this story is kind of weird. The vampire in the bar thing. So basically, they chit-chat for like 40 minutes. He mentioned that she was married, blah, blah, blah. He stated that I had a little girl at the time. Revelation, I was truly nervous. I didn't believe he was a vampire, but a stalker. He knew too much about me. I wonder how he knew I had a little girl. I was actually panicking at this stage. I quickly walked away, pushed my way back to my friends. I didn't turn around to look at him, and quickly told my friends what occurred. We left the bar minutes later. First off, if that happened, you wouldn't wait a couple minutes to leave. You would just be like, we're getting the fuck out of this bar. There's a crazy motherfucker saying he's a vampire. At that point, you just don't wait a couple minutes and leave. You just get the fuck right out. GTFO, out of there. Means get the fuck out. Let's see. A couple of minutes later, we walked a little, and as we approached the car park, my friends noticed a vampire standing next to the bus shelter. I quickly ushered my friends to the car park and got out of Seattle fast as I could drive. Hope he didn't get the chance to see the license plate number. This story is weird. At several levels. Now, do I believe that they encountered the vampire? My honest opinion that is I honestly think they could have encountered like something weird, like a dude masquerading as a vampire. Hold on, there's more to the story. Over the past couple of weeks, I've been questioned multiple times by my friends, and have been asked to expect every single aspect of the night. The night in question, I was stone cold sober. I always like that, like cold, stone sober. Like I honestly think it was stone cold sober. Oh hell yeah. So I know what I saw and I heard. However, I am still debating he was a vampire. But I am not so sure that he was. I was definitely astounded that he knew so much about me. I can't explain how much he knew. I can't explain how much he knew so much. I am a foreigner in this country, so I don't have much information to spread everywhere as most as U.S. citizens. It is hard to track me unless you have access to the immigration database. Anyway, he was weird. This was a weird story. You can interpret the tale as you wish. I, on the other hand, have learned to be more careful about places I visit in the future. Okay, that one kind of raises another flag of truth, in my opinion. She's from another country. She comes to America. And she doesn't have much information about herself that pretty much everyone in the U.S. has. So that one is kind of weird. That one is a weird thing right there. I mean, but at the same time, we all put so much information out there on social media and Facebook, Instagram. Like, I quit Facebook. I mean, I didn't delete my Facebook account, but I sort of quit posting stuff on Facebook and sort of quit. I sort of became the antisocial Facebook person. I became such more of a introvert type person where I don't share much information about myself on platforms. So I wish I kind of know the person who's telling the story, because the characteristics of a person telling their story on video or an audio, it can be easier than reading it and interpreting what they're saying. So for me, I honestly think that this person could be telling the truth, or she could be having a stalker who is posing as a vampire. So, I saw posts on like Instagram and Twitter. So for me, I kind of, the story is sort of debatable that it could be a real vampire or it could be a stalker who's sort of seen this person and sort of became this facade of a vampire. So, for me, I kind of view it as yes and no. I want more information about it. Like, so this next story is going to be the last story. Then we're going to wrap up the podcast a bit early. So this one is called "Afraid of the Dark." This is a premature alien abduction story. In July of 2009, I received a call. A young woman named Mandy. I love that name. I had a dog named Mandy. Mandy Joe. It was before Lilo. Wonderful dog. I was actually at the vet when I took my cat, Lola, to the vet, and the veterinarian kind of knew who I was, and we kind of talked about Mandy and Lilo and Stitch. How different Lilo is to Mandy. Mandy was more of a calm, relaxing dog. Lilo is calm but very alert. So Mandy stated in her life that Mandy stated that her life had become a living hell, and she could no longer leave the house in the evening. Stating, quote, "I am literally afraid of the dark, and under siege in my house at night." Mandy was living in a farmhouse outside the small town of East Central Washington. Man, a lot of things happen in Washington. Less than a mile from the Idaho border. I was going to say boater. Idaho border. About 2 weeks prior to contacting me, her and her mother have noticed bright red and white lights hovering over the Coeur d'Alene Mountains. As they watched the lights, Mandy began to feel dizzy and fearful. That could be like an anxiety attack. That is basically a description of an anxiety attack. Like, I had an anxiety attack where you feel dizzy and fearful of what's happening to you. So, that could be an anxiety attack right there. At night, she had a horrific nightmare involving constant flashing lights and loud mechanical noises. The next morning, she was feeling nauseous, lightheaded, and Mandy, a school teacher, called in sick. Gonna take a drink real quick. So, Mandy was a school teacher, but had to call in sick. The next day, Mandy began feeling better. The lights over the mountains continued several nights. She could no longer had any dreams, but still had a sense of fear lingering with her. Her mother thought that Mandy was simply overreacting to the sightings of the lights. A few nights later, Mandy and her mother were in the kitchen cleaning up after a late dinner. They began hearing popping sounds coming from the backyard. As they looked, the red and white lights were flying in a direction. Each pair of lights collided, and there was a distant popping. Mandy ran into the living room and looked out the window. There were red and white lights everywhere. But out by the road in the field. Her mother picked up the phone in order to call the police. But there was no dial tone. By the time the lights were in the house, it began flickering. Strange sounds from the roof, similar to scratching. This continued for about 5 minutes, then the suddenly stopped. My dog's barking. They were both confused and scared. The phone was not working. Her mother thought that there were no reason to call the police. Mandy walked outside to see if there was any indications of what occurred. Everything seemed to be fine. There was slight odor in the air. She told me it reminded her of burnt motor oil, and they couldn't find no source. She eventually went back inside the house, but still bewildered by what happened. The next night, approximately 10:30 p.m., Mandy was getting ready to go to bed. While standing in front of her bathroom mirror, she noticed 2 loud thuds on the roof. She went to her mother's room to see if she heard the sound, but she was already in bed asleep. While walking upstairs in the hallway to her room, she heard several more thud noises on the roof. Scramping sounds in the attic. She looked out into her bedroom window and once again witnessed hundreds of small red and white lights flying about different directions. The noises in the attic have awoken her mother. They both yelled for each other, as all the electricity in the house were cut off. They ran into Mandy's room, sat nervously on the bed. The thuds on the roof and the scramping in the attic continued. They lit a few candles, hoping the activity would soon end. They felt like prisoners in their own home, worried about what would happen next. Then suddenly the lights came back on. The noises stopped. Mandy later told told me about the commotions that went on for at least an hour. Neither of them could get much sleep that night. A few days later, Mandy contacted me by the telephone, and I referred to her to a paranormal investigator in Spokane. As soon as they began talking about her mother, I sensed that there was not much, but the run-of-the-mill, unexplained encounter. They once again experienced similar activity the previous night. Mandy commented that she felt like they were both in danger. Love you so much more. And I asked if I ever heard of similar experience. I was understandably dumbfounded by the series of events, but at the same time, I was concerned that the activity may eventually lead to physical intervention. I didn't mention my unease. This is a long story, so I will continue it tomorrow. I mean, this kind of sounds like, it kind of sounds like a bit of alien activity or something. I mean, it's kind of hard to say what it is. I mean, the ending of the story is kind of freaky. So, we will continue this story tomorrow. I for one find this story extremely interesting, and the ending of it is very, very disturbing. And so I really enjoy talking about this stuff, especially reading the stories I find on this website. A lot of them are very creepy, especially the alien abduction ones I find extremely disturbing. And we will, of course, continue the story with Mandy and her mother encountering these alien abduction type stories, because this one's a pretty long one. This is told from Mandy's point of view, then the investigator's point of view, where she called him. So, anyway, this is the wrap up of the podcast. I kind of enjoy this one. I will talk about the vampire stuff, not the Seattle one, because that one's kind of easily a mixture of a vampire and possibly a stalker, or both in one. So, anyway, the final thoughts of the show are: mind your surroundings. So anyway, I'm Josh, and this is the podcast. I thank you so much for listening. We will do tomorrow's episode. We will continue the story that we just reached at the end of the show. So, thank you so much for listening. We will continue the story tomorrow on the next show. So, thank you so much for listening, and I will see you all tomorrow. Bye.